Hello guys! Last night Ukrainian drones have paid a visit to another Russian oil refinery located in Stavropolsky Krai of the Russian Federation. But I think we should discuss this topic wider, taking into account how quickly the territory of Ukrainian drone reach expands inside the Russian Federation. And first of all, this demonstrates the vulnerability of Russia, lack of air defense, and most importantly, that it can and will be demilitarized and defeated. What is also interesting, Russian polls, they are quite rare, but still demonstrate that people have already developed dronophobia, even in Moscow and St. Petersburg. So, a part of the destruction of their military objects and oil refineries, drones also send powerful messages to the population of Russia. You need to stop this war, or we will stop it by force. And that's exactly what we are doing. So let's discuss this wide geography of Ukrainian drone attacks and the recent one in Stavropol. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see Russia defeated, subscribe. We will discuss that on the channel sometime soon. And let's start with the recent attack of Ukrainian drones on big Russian oil refinery in Stavropol. Stavropol is located on the south of the Russian Federation, and it is known for oil production facilities. Ukrainian drones, as Russian media report, fell on this oil refinery, which led to the fires and explosions on the oil depots of the refinery. I don't mind whether they describe it fell, landed, descended, or just debris, but the results are visible and including on videos and photos from the locals. This goes well to continue our strategy to target Russian oil refineries and paralyze their oil industry, which is vital for the Russian budget. There are lots of symptoms of Russian economy collapsing, and I hope that sometime soon it will be impossible for them to slow down the inflation. And we all remember that the collapse of the Soviet Union was very much sponsored by the collapse of the Soviet economy first. But looking at the map of the explosions on Russian military objects, I thought we need to discuss this geography and how quickly it expands. It's obvious that many Russian regions are already a war zone, and people know what air raid alerts are there. Ukrainian troops control lots of settlements in Kursk region and are getting ready to fight not just with the Russian soldiers but with North Korean, which is insane. While the world is observing how strong Ukrainians are, we are, but it's definitely better to feel the support and understanding of others, because it's not that easy to fight against two crazy nuclear powers. But there are lots of other regions like Belgorod, like Rostov, like Lipetsk, like Krasnodar, that are under constant visits of Ukrainian drones to their military airfields, to their arsenals, to their oil refineries, and of course Russian bombers bombing their own territory, which is insane. And Belgorod is the top region that suffers from Russians dropping bombs on their own villages and settlements. But apart from these frontline regions on the Russian side, there are other locations where Ukrainian drones travel freely. And if you look at the distance they have to cover to, for example, target something in Olenya, they demonstrate record-breaking achievements. For example, Olenya, which is a very evil military airfield, we often have reports about Russian MiGs ascending from it in the direction to Ukraine, and we have air raid alerts, like every Ukrainian knows this name. So this military airfield is located 1,750 kilometers away from Ukrainian border. So literally, to reach it, a Ukrainian drone has to fly over like 3 or 4 EU countries. Just imagine. Subscribe to learn more about the Russian geography based on the explosions on the military objects there. all the materials carefully provided by the Ukrainian armed forces. So we do need to develop drones. There are lots of kinds, there are lots of people involved in that, and I'm actually very proud that our community often supports such initiatives. So we may say that lots of drones flying the evil skies might be ours. And I'm very grateful for your support here and understanding. But you know that Ukraine absurdly is not allowed to strike back. We can only use HIMARS. Long-range missiles are forbidden for us. Like lots of North Korean soldiers coming from another side of the world is not an escalation. But Ukraine shooting military facilities like 300 kilometers away within distance they can reach our cities, that's an escalation. Absurd. BS. But anyway, drones can travel further, and since the start of 2024, we can definitely see a serious change in the way Ukrainian armed forces use drones. There are lots of attacks on Russian legitimate targets, and the average distance that Ukrainian Angry Birds cover is 600 kilometers approximately, which is definitely longer than HIMARS. I know you may say that you don't need long-range missiles. Unfortunately, drones do not carry that much explosives, and also they don't travel that fast. They can get tired on the way. Missiles are good too. Like everything is good when you need to defeat this evil that gets support from North Korea, Iran, China, and uses it like crazy on innocent Ukrainian people. But also there are more and more records broken by Ukrainian drones in terms of the distances that they can cover. And you know that so far perhaps one of the furthest targets was this military airfield in Olenya, almost 2,000 kilometers away from Ukraine. But just this week's we have targeted Chechnya, we have targeted Bashkortostan, we have targeted Astrakhan, and this is good because first of all, we demilitarize Russia, and that's the only way to achieve lasting peace in this part of the world. Second, it is the message to the population of Russia that no, not everything goes according to the plan. And also it is an illustration to our allies that Russia is very vulnerable. And no matter how hard you try to preserve it, because that's the feeling I get right now, it will collapse. Do check our recent live where we have discussed that. That's inevitable, and not because you will supply Ukraine or let Ukraine strike back. Actually, war in Ukraine is this agony of the Russian Empire and one of the desperate moves to save this monster when it is impossible. Empires of this type do not survive in the 21st century. And I don't know why you are still doubting whom to choose in this fight. I think it would be great to have free and independent Ukraine as a guarantor of peace for many more ex-Soviet republics that don't want back to Russia and need protection. And with our Ukrainian experience, we are ready to guarantee it. Don't trust Russia as you did in the 90s. That was one of the greatest mistakes of global geopolitics. Trust me, I'm Ukrainian. And I will be happy to tell you more about Ukrainian history because a wonderful thing happened recently. I got acquainted with a very famous Ukrainian historian, Alexander Pali, and I know that many of you have read his brief course on Ukrainian history, and he agreed to visit our community and answer your questions about the history of Ukraine. And do check our community tab. During 7 days, we will collect questions, and the questions that receive most support, likes from you, I will ask Alexander when he comes for an interview. Honestly, I can't wait to see what topics are of great interest to you. Don't be afraid. Any question is okay. It can be very simple, it can be very complex, but I'm very grateful that you want to know more about my beautiful country and its history. So let's do it together. I think this may be a very good experience. Also, remember to join me on Instagram, X, Threads, and Discord. All the links that you need are in the description of this video. Check our merch shop for lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. But most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!